On my home tab, there is right here in the middle, there is a layers palette right here. And if I click right here on this layer properties button, I have a window that comes up. This, by the way, in AutoCAD is called a palette. And there are two kinds of pop-ups in AutoCAD. Let me just close this. There is a palette here, and there is a dialog box or a window. Again, if I open up options, I have this white box here, and there's dialog boxes here where I can change settings. Another dialog box that we already used was units. And that comes up. Those are generally white here, and you close them just with this close button right here. The other, besides dialog boxes, there are palettes. And let me open up the layers palette. And the palettes usually run with a sidebar here. And that sidebar can be on the right side or on the left side. But it won't be along the top. So if I want to move this palette around, rather than how you would normally click and grip up at the top, you need to clip and or just click and move around on the side. I can stretch this palette out and make it wider, and I can also close it up here in the upper left-hand corner. And I can also dock this palette if I wish. So I can just move the palette off to the left, and it's sort of docked on the left side here. I don't really want to do that, so I'm going to grab it and pull it back into the middle of my document. And if I want to dock it on the right side, I can click over here, and you'll notice that now that palette edge here is now on the right side, because I docked it on the right side. So I just wanted you to know that there is a difference between them, and you kind of move and operate these palettes differently than dialog boxes. So let me just move this off to the left again. So with the palettes, this layers palette open, these are the layers that we set up in AutoCAD for you to draw on. There's a border, there's a dimension layer, and we'll put all of our dimensions on the dimension layer. We'll put furniture on either the furniture 1 or furniture 2 layer. We'll put text on the text layer. When we're working in Paperspace, we'll be working with viewports, and we'll put viewports on a viewport layer. And when we're drawing walls or architecture, we'll put that on the walls layer. And I am just going to, just for clarity here, well, I guess I'll just leave it. It's fine. And each layer we have set colors for it. Dimensions is magenta, and you can change those colors if you want.
All right, Paul, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Okay, so these layers, do they work like transparencies, like on an overhead? I'm trying to understand the concept.
Yes, layers are as if you're taking like a piece of cellophane or transparency paper, and you're laying one on top of the other.
Okay, okay.
So what I can do is I can turn those layers on and off at will, so that maybe I don't want to see my dimensions, so I can freeze them or turn them off. But yeah, that in general. And again, we'll be talking about layers as we go on today. So yes, that's exactly what you would do. If you're familiar with, again, Photoshop, you can turn layers on and off so that they're still there, right? But you've turned them off so you don't see them. I can change the line type on layers. Maybe I want hidden lines or dashed lines on my layers. And also I can control whether or not that layer will plot. I may have guidelines or may have viewports in this case that I don't ever want to see. I don't want to see on the piece of paper that I'm plotting. So I can control, you'll notice here there's a little printer with a little a little red icon there, and that's telling me that that layer will never plot. So in AutoCAD. So what we've done is we've set up these generic layers for you to use. And also we've set that the default layer is walls. And you'll notice there's a little green check, and that's telling me that that is the layer that I will be drawing on when I am doing any of my drawing. Last week, when we were doing drawing, we didn't have any of these layers, and we were on 0. There is always a layer 0. It's the default layer, and you'll always have it. And in general, you don't want to draw on layer 0. So we want to draw on a layer that's meaningful to us. So we always want to be thinking about what objects we're putting on our in our drawing, and we want to draw on the appropriate layer. So when we're drawing walls, and if it were me, I would change this to architecture, which would include walls and doors and windows and all of that stuff. That would go on the walls there. And then when we're adding furniture, we want to make sure that we're on a furniture layer. When we're adding dimensions, we want to be on the dimension layer. So this is the layer palette. And when I want to close it, there's just a little X here, and I can close that palette. Again, to get at the layers palette, I can just click on layer properties up here, and it comes up. Or if I want to use the command line, I can type LA, and that, you'll notice, layer comes up by default, and there is my layers palette. It's not L, because L in AutoCAD, if you remember, is the line command. You'll notice I'm in the line command if I just type L. But if I type LA, that gets me into the layers palette. And often, for me, it's just, if my hand is near the keyboard, it's easy for me to type LA, and I do it off. I do both. So layer properties is here, and there's all kinds of adjustments that we can do to our layers, and we'll be talking about these as the semester goes on. But what I want to call your attention to is a little drop box here. And there are all of our layers. And you'll notice that walls is highlighted here. But if I, so let's say I want to draw some text, or I want to put some text on my drawing, I can just click on the text layer, and you'll notice that up here, I am now in the text layer. So anything I put on my drawing will appear on the text layer, and it will appear green because the text layer is green. So let me just draw a line here. I'll just type L for line. And as I draw lines, those lines are on the text layer. They're green. If I want to draw something on the furniture, I'll just go on furniture 2 here. And I want to draw a rectangle on the furniture 2 layer. I'll just go up to my rectangle tool here and draw a rectangle. So you'll notice that I have 2 colors here, and that's signifying to me that I am drawing on the text layer with green and the furniture layer with the cyan here. Also, you'll notice that as I move my cursor over that line, and I'm not clicking on anything, a little tooltip comes up, and it's telling me that that object is a line, and the color of it is by layer. And we'll talk about by layer, what that means later on. Well, I guess what it means is it's set to whatever the color of the layer is. In this case, the layer is set to green, and that layer is text, and the line type is also by layer. It's a continuous line. If I wanted that to be a dashed line, I could change the line type to dashed. Similarly, if I hover over this rectangle here, you'll notice that the tooltip comes up as a polyline. We haven't talked about polylines, but we will be talking about them a little bit later. All a polyline is a bunch of lines that are connected together. So that rectangle is actually 4 lines, right? But you'll notice that when I hover over it, all 4 lines highlight because they're all connected together as a polyline. And the color is by layer, and the layer is on furniture 2. So if I want to, I can, let's say I want to, for whatever reason, I want to freeze my furniture. I want to turn my furniture off. I don't want to see it. I'll go up to my layer properties. And over here, you'll notice that my furniture 2 layer is current, is highlighted, but I'm going to go over to my walls layer there. I'm just double clicking and I'm highlighting my walls layer. But I want to turn my furniture 2 layer off. I'll highlight my furniture 2 layer. And you'll notice I have 2 options here. I have on and freeze. And both will make the furniture 2 layer disappear. If I turning a layer off, I'll just left click here on the little light bulb, and you'll notice that that light bulb turns blue. So that's telling me that that furniture layer is turned off. I'm going to turn it on, and I can freeze that layer. And right now there's a little sun here, and if I click on it, it turns into a little winter snowflake, and that layer is frozen. And in both cases, as soon as I close my furniture palette here, or my, what happened here? I didn't actually freeze it. But you'll notice that my furniture 2 layer is gone. And when I click it again, the furniture is back. And when I turn it off, it's gone. And when I turn it back on, it's back. So what's the difference between turning a furniture on or a layer on and off and freezing it? Well, when I turn a layer off, the lines are still there, but they're invisible. So if I move something or I adjust something, even though I can't see this object, it's going to move or adjust. And generally speaking, I don't want to do that. What I want when I turn a layer off or when I freeze a layer, I don't want it to be affected by anything that I do. So in general, and this is a rule of thumb that I want you to follow, we won't be turning layers on and off. We will only be freezing and thawing layers. So if you don't want to see a layer, please freeze the layer, or freeze or thaw the layer. Don't turn the layer on and off. You'll get yourself all wacko and crazy when you start manipulating your drawing, and then you turn that layer on and you find that that rectangle is like way over here, and you go, oh no, now I got to move that rectangle back. So always, just to reiterate, use freeze and thaw if and when you need to turn a layer on and off. You want to freeze that layer and thaw